This is ridiculous.
The president, Tim Burton, said dismissively as he tossed the personal profile back at us.
We're not a match. Just give up and consider it fate. Ethan, let's go.
Tim and his wife, Hillary, quickly stood up and started to gather their things to leave. As Rachel stared at the personal profile thrown back in front of her, she bit her lip. Please wait, there's a reason Rachel only finished high school. She didn't choose to drop out. There were circumstances. Please hear me out. I desperately tried to explain the situation to them. However, despite hearing my words, Hillary snickered and said, no matter the reason, I never want to be involved with a poor high school dropout working part-time. So, it's fine to cancel our $200 million contract with your company, right?
What did you say? There's no way a poor guy like you could do that.
When I heard Tim's words, I acted on what I had said. My name is Josh Duhamel, 32 years old. I run a small factory that I inherited from my father. During the winter of my junior year in college, an accident occurred at my father's factory. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured, but several skilled workers were hurt and had to take time off, and some equipment was damaged, severely impacting the factory's operations. Of course, compensation for the workers was necessary as well. For the work we could no longer handle, I had to ask other factories we knew to take over. As a result, we had to make significant layoffs, including office staff and part-time workers, which left us short-handed. When I said I would drop out of college to help at the factory, my younger sister Rachel stopped me.
Josh, you're almost ready to graduate. It would be a waste to quit now, so just finish.
In fact, I had good grades and was attending a prestigious state college close to home. My tuition was covered by a scholarship that didn't need to be repaid, so dropping out would indeed be a waste. But if I say that, what will happen to our home? The factory? The employees? As I was worrying, Rachel said,
I've just graduated from high school, so I'll help with the family business instead of going to high school.
Both my parents and I were strongly against this. These days, education background is crucial. We all tried to convince her to at least go to college, but Rachel was adamant, insisting to the three of us.
In a year, Josh will graduate, so let me go to college a year late. In this day and age, being a year behind isn't a big deal. If I'm serious about studying, I can do it anytime, anywhere.
And she added that if I dropped out of college, she would never attend any school again. She said this to ensure I could continue my education. I will never forget how my 15-year-old sister, Rachel, said such things. Even though she was 7 years younger, she protected me as if she were the parent, appearing almost saintly. So, I promised that once I graduated, Rachel would start high school a year late, and I finished my last year of college. However, life is cruel, and things didn't go as planned. My parents worked tirelessly, day and night, to rebuild the factory. As a result, my father suddenly collapsed at the factory and had to be hospitalized for a long period. It happened just before I graduated from college. Since I planned to work at the factory right after graduation, I had been learning the job bit by bit, which was fortunate, but my father was the problem. Even after being discharged, he couldn't move right away and needed care at home. Rachel again said,
It's okay, another year won't make a difference, so don't worry.
But various issues kept piling up, and our family was constantly struggling. One more year turned into another, and in the end, Rachel never went to college and the years passed. It's been 10 years since that accident. Finally, the factory is stable, and my father is well enough to occasionally visit the factory. My mother is relieved by my father's recovery and is now hopeful that Rachel can be relieved of some of her duties. Things were finally starting to look up a bit. One day, out of the blue, Rachel announced that she was getting married, shocking my parents and me. and her fiancé was the son of the president of a famous company, Burton Trading. Rachel had endured so much hardship all this time. We wholeheartedly celebrated and vowed tearfully to do everything we could for her. Rachel introduced her fiancé, Ethan Burton, to us, and he seemed like such a fine young man that I felt assured Rachel would be happy with him. We welcomed Ethan and had a wonderful time. When it came time to introduce Rachel to Ethan's parents, Ethan's face clouded, and he said,
"My parents will probably have a hard time accepting Rachel."
Ethan explained that his parents wanted him to marry a young lady from a distinguished family. Burton Trading is a company that Tim Burton has grown to its current size. He and his wife, Hillary, took over a small store from the previous generation and expanded it significantly with their talent. Their capabilities are well recognized in the business world. However, Tim has always been labeled an upstart. Because of this, he wants to marry his only son, Ethan, to a young lady from a respectable family to improve their social standing. We were worried. Could Rachel truly be happy marrying into a family with such parents? After all, we only run a small factory. But Ethan reassured us.
"I can't imagine marrying anyone other than Rachel. I will do everything I can to persuade my parents. If they still oppose, I am prepared for that."
Indeed, the future seemed uncertain, but we trusted Ethan and Rachel, who chose a future with him despite the potential challenges, and decided to meet Tim and his wife, Hillary. The day came for Rachel to meet Ethan's parents. Since my father was still recovering and my mother was caring for him, I went alone to accompany Rachel. Meeting with the Burtons, who were unlikely to accept Rachel, meant it would be easier to handle any situation that might arise. The meeting was set in a private room at a renowned hotel. Dressed in my best suit and feeling nervous, I entered the room. Tim and Hillary were already seated, looking at us with unreadable expressions. "Nice to meet you. Thank you for the good relationship between my sister Rachel and Ethan." I politely greeted, but the Burtons only exchanged glances and did not respond. Reluctantly, we took our seats across from them. Ethan sat beside his parents.
First, let us see what you brought.
Oh, yes, here it is. Thank you.
We had been asked to bring Rachel's personal profile for the meeting, so we had prepared it. The Burtons looked over the documents and then exchanged glances while shaking their heads.
First, I want to confirm, is it true that this young lady only has a high school education?
Yes.
Rachel answered.
This is ridiculous.
Tim said, tossing the personal profile back.
We're not a match. Just give up and consider it fate. Ethan, let's go.
The Burtons quickly stood and began to gather their things to leave. Rachel bit her lip as she looked at the personal profile thrown back in front of her.
"I can't imagine marrying anyone other than Rachel."
Ethan repeated the words he had said to us to his parents. Tim glared bitterly at Ethan and Rachel.
I said we're not a match. This conversation is over.
He spat out. Please wait, there is a reason Rachel only finished high school. She didn't choose to drop out. There were circumstances. Please hear me out. I desperately explained the situation to the Burtons. I told them about the accident at my father's factory, which had been running smoothly until then. When I said I would drop out of college, Rachel convinced me to stay since I was close to graduating, and she put off going to college. Later, my father collapsed and had to be hospitalized for a long time, so Rachel had no choice but to give up on furthering her education. I explained how much Rachel had sacrificed for our family, and how we trusted Ethan, who promised to cherish Rachel. But even after hearing this, Hillary laughed and said, "No matter the reason, I never want to be involved with a poor high school dropout working part-time." I was so furious that I would have beaten them to a pulp if I had the chance. And there was someone else who was just as angry as I was.
"Enough already.
Ethan slammed the table and glared at his parents.
Even after hearing the situation, you still say that? Can't you see how noble Rachel's actions were? I no longer recognize you as my parents. I'm cutting ties with you today.
Ethan was shaking with anger. I was delighted, despite the situation, knowing I didn't need to intervene. Ethan genuinely cared for Rachel. Seeing this, I was confident that I could trust Ethan with Rachel. Rachel seemed to feel the same way. Even though she looked sad, I could see a glimmer of happiness in her eyes.
How can you say such things? I can't believe it. Ethan must have been deceived by this girl and her family.
Ethan, wake up. Marry the wonderful lady I have chosen for you.
The Burtons, unable to believe their son's defiance, tried to convince him, but Ethan ignored them completely. Then Tim said,
If you insist on marrying that woman, I have a plan. I can easily deal with her family's small factory. Do you understand that?
Ethan flinched for the first time. He knew his parents well enough to realize they were capable of such actions. Tim didn't miss Ethan's reaction.
Yes, you understand, don't you? If you do.
It's fine. I interrupted before Tim could finish. Tim, if you want to do something to our factory, go ahead. Tim was surprised and widened his eyes but quickly regained his composure and said,
Oh, you are quite bold. You really mean that?
Yes, I do. I replied with a confident smile. Then it's okay to cancel the $200 million contract with your company, right?
What? There's no way a poor guy like you could do that.
Tim thought I was bluffing. All right. Please take a look at this. I took a small box from my bag and placed it on the table. Considering who I was dealing with, I was glad I had brought it. The Burtons looked at me suspiciously. I opened the box and took something out, placing it on the table. Tim didn't immediately recognize it. However, he had a look of vague familiarity. I adjusted the angle so Tim could see it better. His face turned pale.
That can't be.
What's wrong, Tim?
It was a part manufactured only at our factory. This part is unique and cannot be made anywhere else in the world. Yes, Tim, you know it well. We just talked about it recently. Though, it was your executive who came to the meeting. This is common with small factories in America. A skilled craftsman can create parts that no other company can replicate. We finally developed such a product. Thanks to this product, our reputation soared, and demand from companies worldwide increased. We were struggling to keep up and received offers from several companies wanting to mediate the sales. Coincidentally, we decided to work with Burton Trading, and we were just about to finalize the contract. Similar parts can be made, but without our know-how in craftsmanship, they can't replicate it. The material used for this part is also unique, with unmatched strength and durability. Handling this product could potentially open a $200 million market. Of course, we can't exclusively deal with just one company to avoid antitrust laws. Given Tim's reputation for strong business acumen, I thought Burton Trading would be a great partner for international transactions. Despite my high regard for Burton Trading, they didn't even remember the name of our company. It wasn't just about Rachel. I was disillusioned with Tim for assuming our company was small and not even remembering that I am the president. That disillusionment led me to decide to cancel the contract. I have no intention of doing business with Burton Trading. The contract will be canceled, I said, quickly packing the product back into the box and putting it away.
Wait.
Tim desperately tried to stop me. This is pointless. Consider it fate. Rachel, let's go. The three of us, Rachel, Ethan, and I, promptly left the room. After that, the Burtons contacted me multiple times, but I ignored them all. No matter the reason, I never want to be involved with a company that belittles others without understanding their circumstances. It was a contract that was projected to be worth $2 million in the future if it had been signed. Of course, they were desperate, but I had made up my mind. I would never contract with Burton Trading. Instead, I signed a contract with a rival company. The business journals covered the deal extensively and speculated on why we canceled the contract with Burton Trading at the last moment. Some articles even mentioned Rachel and Ethan, suggesting there must have been significant reasons for not proceeding with the marriage and business ties with Burton Trading. Although we hadn't spoken to the press, it was surprising how close to the truth some of the reports were. The intuition and imagination of journalists can be frightening. We'll likely attract more media attention in the future, so we must be cautious. And though I don't think it's right, there are plenty of people who will target and try to exploit any weakness they find. Burton Trading faced baseless accusations and relentless attacks, suffering significant damage. Hackers posted harassing messages on their official site, and prank calls flooded not just the main office but also their branches. As a result, Burton Trading's stock plummeted. Competitors, seizing the opportunity, aggressively took over Burton Trading's business. The company was at risk of collapsing. Hearing that the Burtons were severely worn out, both Ethan and Rachel, as well as my family, were distressed. I, too, had once wished for Burton Trading's downfall, but this situation was unsettling. I decided to contact Tim to request another meeting. Tim gladly accepted my offer. This time, instead of a hotel room, the meeting was at our home. The Burtons arrived dressed impeccably as before, but their faces were now gaunt and tired. I guided them from the entrance.
This is.
Tim first noticed the handrails installed at the entrance. These were installed when my father returned home after his collapse. His illness left him with some mobility issues. As I led the Burtons through the hallway to the living room, they saw the handrails and ramps we had installed. As I mentioned before, my father collapsed just as Rachel was about to start college a year late. She had already passed the entrance exams to the same prestigious school I attended.
I see.
Indeed. Rachel had been looking forward to starting college. But when our father collapsed, his life was in danger, and he was not expected to wake up. After emergency surgery, he thankfully recovered, and after a long rehabilitation, he returned home. In that situation, Rachel gave up on school to take care of the household and our father. In the end, Rachel never got to attend college. I am grateful that I could graduate from college because of her sacrifices. The Burtons seemed at a loss for words. In the living room were my parents, Rachel, and Ethan, who stood and greeted the Burtons. We had a calm conversation. My father shared about the initial small accident at the factory, his collapse, and the hardship Rachel endured. The Burtons listened quietly, occasionally responding. Tim then talked about the struggles of growing Burton Trading to its current size, facing contempt as an upstart, and the bitter experiences. My father expressed his understanding and asked Tim, who had faced similar challenges, to mentor me and our employees.
I didn't want Ethan to experience such struggles, so I aimed for an alliance with a prestigious family.
I believed it was for Ethan's happiness, which led to our rudeness that day.
The Burtons sincerely regretted their actions. Thus, our families reconciled, and we blessed Rachel and Ethan's marriage. We announced a renewed contract with Burton Trading. The official reason was to revise the contract terms, and during that time, we also announced Ethan Burton and Rachel Duhamel's marriage. Explaining that we were cautious about the contract, the attacks on Burton Trading subsided and eventually disappeared. Rachel and Ethan got married without any issues and are now working together to support Burton Trading. Rachel enrolled in an online college after the wedding. I recalled the words she once told me.
If you're serious about studying, you can do it anytime, anywhere.
She put the words into action. I truly admire my sister. I respect Rachel from the bottom of my heart.
You've really helped me, Josh. If the development of that product had been delayed, I might not have been able to marry Ethan.
She said, but I believe everything went smoothly because of the virtues Rachel accumulated throughout her life. It's something I find too embarrassing to say out loud. Then Rachel continued.
Now, Josh, it's your turn to be happy. Tim and Hillary said they could help find a good match for you. What do you think?
Oh, no, don't tell me it's some lady from a prestigious family or something. I said, surprised, needing to confirm. If they were thinking of someone from the list they had for Ethan, it would be unbearable. I don't want to be with someone from such a high-class family, it's too stressful. Besides, there's someone I'm interested in. She's a clerk at our office, and I feel very comfortable talking with her. I have a hunch she might be the one. I think she likes me too, but I haven't had a proper conversation with her about it because of the part development. I was thinking of asking her out for a meal when Rachel made her offer. If I tell Rachel honestly about this woman, she'll tease me endlessly. That thought makes me too embarrassed to be honest. But as I fumbled over my words, Rachel seemed to sense something. She stared at me, and I felt like I was about to confess, all while feeling a sense of happiness.